You are listening to the Firecracker Podcast with Tony Rico.
Well, this is an exciting day. My gosh. Bringing you two back into the studio. Well, actually, you two in the studio for the first time together. Usually you two had been in the office and something had went wrong, or we had to fix something, or we can go review that. But today we've got, we've already introduced our Vice President, Sean Brashear. Maybe looks a little different today without his hat. He's got a fresh haircut and looking good and looking sharp and spiky. That a boy. And we've got Coach Roman Gallegos here. And we were thinking earlier, Roman, I don't know if we need to give you an official title or some letters. I mean, you cranked out some letters here earlier, but
I think at this point my title would be Sweaty Hands because I've never done this before. So that's Sweaty Hands.
Not the only thing sweating, probably.
Probably not. We'll just call you Sweaty. Just Fetty right now.
All right.
So yeah, we've got a couple of boys and talk about experience and talk about the road as far as what we've all been through. And so it's kind of cool sitting here after about how many years would you say, Roman?
Oh boy.
Your journey, your trek, your experience, your sentence. How we look
9?
At it? 9?
I believe 9.
Kind of getting up there, isn't it?
It's so, there. 8 or 9.
Yeah. So whatever the hell we've been doing it for a while together, and it's pretty damn cool. So,
yep.
So wanted to bring Sean and Roman in and really allow people to just hear a conversation between us on. I mean, if anything, we've gained a lot of experience, right? So we've screwed things up enough. Hopefully not over and over and over, but part of this journey is you try something and it works and it doesn't work. And so recently, you guys just had one of our FC combines down out in Lake Elsinore, and man, all the feedback that I got back was just right on. So that standard that I've always been kind of an anal prick about, and try to set, but you guys really seem to pull it off. So let's start with that a little bit. It was last weekend, right? We had a big event, Zoom into June into Southern California. We've got new recruiting laws and legislation, but you guys pulled off a great camp. And so tell me about it. Tell me what you felt good about. Tell me what the vibe was like. Tell me response you got.
I mean, it's work, obviously, especially trying to get in on a field where there's things existing and you're, bringing your equipment to get things set up. But the kids from all the teams were very receptive, and Roman coordinating and organizing the check-in points, and all those things have to be on point. Otherwise it can be a mess. So, and all the guys that helped to get the field set up, because we had to set up all the nets and kind of do it in a quick moment.
So it really is a collaboration.
It's a collaboration.
A lot of people bringing there.
A lot of moving parts. Yeah. And if somebody, forgets something or messes up, then it can change the moment of the moment real quick.
But it's like running a tournament, or what tournament directors go through. Mm-hmm. I mean,
thinking on the
stuff's
fly.
going to happen.
Thinking on the fly.
So, you putting out fires and adjusting and adapting. And so the fact that, that being kind of sometimes expected.
Yep.
Man, you guys nailed it.
It was fun. And the girls, the cool part is seeing all the girls that are excited to be there and to put in the work. And they really, kind of go about it without the idea of the college side. And that's what we're trying to give them, is that, just an opportunity to be out there and showcase themselves. Tricky. And it's tricky, but, really it went off, for the most part without a hitch, minus a couple of things. And again, the guys all, we had 6-7 guys out there, moving and right. A lot of moving parts, but I think it went really well.
So who are the crew? Who was out there? Who had it rolling? Who's say whatever they're doing? But
I kind of did so it was myself, Sean, and Melissa Roth were kind of the three that kind of headed it out, and then we solicited help from Donnie Hagberg, Mark Thornburg, Steve Caswell.
Jeff Allen helped a little bit.
Robert Oakes.
Robert Oakes did a good job. So kind of bringing some of those young guys in too to see
Mondo Lopez.
how it unfolds.
Right.
So
right.
From everything from the actual workout and the rotations and the times that need to stay on point to the colleges that are in the stands and making sure that they're getting information and we're providing them what they want and finding out. And Roman's out there doing that part as far as trying to get information that we may need that we can use in the moment.
Right.
As much as it's structured, it's also adapting to what may be needed or wanted. So that way we're providing the audience everything that they need to see when they want to see it.
It's teamwork.
So, yeah.
And I think it's cool too, like to bring in some of those, younger guys in the organization, like Allen and Lopez and stuff, because Sean and I were talking prior to the camp about our experience of working camps with you.
Right.
And so now, we're kind of, along with Melissa running the camps and so bringing in these guys. So I don't know, kind of setting the precedent and the expectations, and, things just keep
getting. Got to turn it over.
Yeah. Better and better.
But the trick is to again, create a certain standard. So you were happy with, the response, the way it felt. So what would you say were some of the things that you were most happy with?
Two of the things that jump out on me is I think the Firecracker coaches did a good job. They sent the right kids. Not that there's a wrong kid to send, but the kids that they send provided a lot of energy. There was a ton of energy at that camp.
Excellent.
Which is, it's hard to bring on a Thursday afternoon.
Makes people want to watch though, right?
It makes people want to watch, and so the energy. So the right kids were at the camp. A lot of times we send invites to coaches and not that they send the wrong kids, but they just did a great job. All of our Firecracker coaches did a great job.
It can be an easy thing to understand that it happens when a coach wants to, do his job and get players to be seen. And so the pressure from the obsession of, the parent side and the family side. So you've got coaches that will sometimes push something a little more forward, because they need to be there. But in the end, your credibility. So your credibility in the softball field, it's like your credit score. So whatever you're doing and whatever you're saying over the end, really is your representation into the industry.
Yep.
So I think coaches are learning that. We've used our 1 through 4 ratings system. We haven't talked a lot about it recently. I'm thinking about revamping it, maybe going through a 1 through 10 starting in September, just to give us a little more room, a little more accuracy, because a 1 through 4 rating system, everyone's a 3, so many of them are. And so I think that's important. What you mentioned is we've got to get the right product on the field. So.
And then the second thing was being the first recruiting weekend, which kind of, I like to liken it to like my specialty, which is recruiting and talking with coaches, building those relationships. It was interesting to see how these new rules are going to play out.
Right.
Who or is everyone going to abide by the rules, and talking with colleges as well as travel ball coaches, how do we, because really the ownership, the responsibility on paper is on the college coaches. So, we can blab about whatever we want. It's up to that college coach so the ownership is on them. However, we got to be careful that we need to have integrity and help them with their job.
We're working together. They're going to dictate the direction that we go.
Yep.
So ultimately what they end up doing, that's what we have to adapt to. So did you find that most of the conversations were good? Dialogue was good?
Oh, it was good, but it was really
anything
funny.
You were unsure about? This is good because we've got coaches listening.
A lot that I was unsure about. We've all read the FAQs and the scenario type questions, but most of those questions, not that they don't come up, but they're usually, so it's kind of like, I kind of likened it to like the Bible and parables. Like college coaches are kind of asking you a question in parable, like, here's what I can say. And then you got
half our audience.
Yeah. Okay. But Sean Brashear, I'll explain to you what a Bible is. I'll explain to you what a Bible is later.
Terrible. Hold on. No, I know a Bible.
Okay. I didn't know.
It's the ASA rule book.
Roman, can you give us an example?
But going back on that though too, it was a lot. One of the awesome things is to have other Firecracker people whom I respect in the crowd with the coaches, kind of helping me, even though I don't know if that was their goal to be there, but Brittany Barger was there, Ken Lawners,
I saw him.
Having us there, and there might be more, and I'm sorry if I missed them, but just us three. It's funny because I know Ken was there for a purpose and Brittany was there for a purpose, but ultimately they were all That's a Brashear word, by the way. Ultimately. Yeah.
Ultimately, Brashear.
But ultimately, all three of us kind of pulled together. And we're, Ken would be like, hey, they want to know who this kid is, or, or however they can say it, but, what number is this year? And, so we're all kind of working together. So that was
conversation.
Great.
That's
very
what
good
recruiting
conversation.
is, right? Having conversations.
So it was nice.
We're an interesting time that I think the message is pretty much out there. Watch what you say.
Yep.
Even right before that weekend, we received an email with more FAQs, and one of them was, you can't ask a college coach what they need in 2023 or any year before the junior year. So what are you looking for? So many of them have so many commitments already, verbal commitments from the younger players.
Right.
So what do you have left for, the freshman class, but they can't answer that as well. So my experience this weekend was actually pretty good. I was pretty happy with most of the dialogue. I felt like people were on the same page, just kind of watching, being cautious. But what was your experience like this weekend? You were doing a lot of coaching. You were all over the place on the field.
Yeah, and I would say that I definitely felt, and whether this was part of it or not, but there was a lot more coaches watching 16s, and we played against the East Cobb Bullets on Saturday night, and we had 40 profiles that I gave to one of our coaches to hand out, and he came back in the second inning, he was done. Yeah. And
Sean yelled at him, by the way.
And I yelled at him
for wasting all the copies.
Right?
You did.
Okay, we'll talk about that later. This is supposed to be a positive thing.
Oh.
So, where in years past, in the 16s, not that we'd have coaches, but it seemed like there were, again, so it looks like they're a little bit of already a transition because the 14 field I went and watched Allen's team play and talking to Robert Oakes, they were in that 8 to 10 range, where last year that would have been the 30 field and we would have been the 8 to 10 field. And now it was kind of like we were the 30 field. And it was, so I don't know if that was because of the rule, but I definitely felt it.
If that ended up being the trend for the weekend and becomes the trend sooner than later, awesome. And so, all right, you're a parent or a coach of a 14 under team or a 12 under team. Don't freak out. You're not being ignored. It's the best thing for you.
Correct.
I mean, a big part of this, a big reason for all of this is to put things where they need to be, not just having opportunities, but where they need to be. So the emotional wellness, not only of our players, but my gosh, of the family of the 14-year-old. So it's going to allow us, hopefully, what the vision is to focus on development for 12s and 14s.
Yep.
We know that it'll take a year or two for the behavior to change, but it's great to see that it's changing already. We know that they need to identify freshmen still, so they're going to be at 14s this year. But if eventually they can clear out of 14s as well and take the stress out, the fact that they can't say anything. I have heard some coaches say, "Well, we're going to watch 14s to watch them develop," and my response to them is always, if you sit in the stands, you create the same amount of stress. It doesn't matter because the uneducated or inexperienced family still sees it as the movie producer is going to watch us practice singing. Right. You're still getting a response. So they're still going to worry about what's going to happen. And now the fact they can't say anything other than I'm interested. So that is really going to create a problem for kind of the mindset and the interpretation of family. So the sooner we clear them out, sooner we can get back to, Amanda and Mel were in here and we did a podcast and they just talked about playing for the enjoyment of the game. And really, you guys have seen this evolve into playing for the scholarship. So, hey, great opportunities. I mean, that's really the big payoff for this, but it's really good to hear some of the communication and dialogue that took place. And the format of the tournament this weekend was actually pretty cool because we had multiple age brackets at the same park.
Yes.
And so you notice the coaches were around, all
I was just going to say, we didn't really talk about that, but that was something new this year. You can tell where they had, 14s, 16s, 18s at one location and at all the different locations, different age groups. So it was nice because usually in the past with previous recruiting, as you know, the 14U fields were usually packed with colleges. 16s had the next best, and then the 18s, where the 18s were playing, was pretty much, they come check in on their players. But this
that's
year
one of the good things that Triple Crown does. They consult. I mean, Don is one of their major consultants, and so they run things by us. And what do you think about this? And because I think you have to work hard to stay on the front end of things on what does the culture need, what does the industry need. So creating good events, and I thought that worked out really, really well because I didn't see as many coaches traveling as often, which is big to the college coach.
They were not.
Yeah, once they got parking, that's for sure. Yeah.
Yes. That was interesting. Definitely, I had to explore, especially on it was Saturday. Yeah, I parked off on I don't know where I was.
I think Sunday I waited like a half an hour to park, and that's feedback we got too about the community park there that they used this year from college coaches. They loved it because there was shade. Yeah. There was shade everywhere.
Playing surfaces were a little, I don't know about your fields. Ours was a little hard, a little powdery, a little scary for the infielders, but screw it. We had shade.
Yep. We'll take the shade.
You got a dentist. We'll get you a mask. We're good. But that was good. I always thought about maybe, let's throw this out there, but create an artificial tree business for some of these new parks. So, like, would you really have cared if it was plastic or just like an indoor plant or something? I don't care. Give me anything. I'll hide. I'm standing in the shadow of the light pole to try to try to just stay out of the sun a little bit. So shoot, there might be some ideas out there. I was really happy with the weekend. Zoom into June, as far as getting creative goes. So it's whether it's the combines and the constant nurturing and massaging of the workouts to get them exactly where we want them. Zoom into June was created as an option because what we were experiencing at that time just wasn't cutting it. So again, it's Don Menard. I think he's underappreciated and undervalued as far as the ideas and what he understands about the workings of events and tournaments and creating cultures that people want to be part of within an event. And so it was, we were driving back from a showcase that just seemed to fall a little short. And then it was, you're not going to get anybody to to follow you out to Hemet. So I apologize to everybody, but we created that out there, worked with Larry Minor out there, creating Diamond Valley Park. And so it's a great complex. And then, everything's just kind of expanded. So you look at that, and we're so busy right now with the industry that, man, this 6-week season, it's about what it is through PGF, just flies by.
It's quick.
I mean, like bang, bang. I mean, you guys, we just talked about your first road trip and being on the road, and boom, and then it was the road trip to New Mexico.
Yep.
So, do we need to take a video team and document a road trip with Brashear, Thornburg, and Gallegos on the road? I mean, could we? Lucas, we might be sending you and John on the road.
You can make a movie.
It'd be comedy.
It would be Step Brothers meets Road Trip meets...
meets... not Porky's.
Not like
Revenge of the
Does
Nerds.
Dallas or anything like
Maybe,
that.
no,
No.
well, a little bit.
No.
No, the road trips are fun. And, the kids enjoy them. And for the most part, the coaches, as we get older, they become less and less enjoyable. But it is a great opportunity to come back after the high school season, get everybody back together, and what a way to do it besides, by spending 18 hours in a van. So,
I know it doesn't happen just over a period of time because it can happen your first couple of years, but as you take a lot of these trips for all the right reasons, you do the things you knew. We've talked about that, but you find yourself asking more questions like, "What the are we doing here? What the are we
We've
doing?"
said that a lot. We say that a lot. Like, what
Now,
are
some
we
of
doing?
you first and second year people, you're saying it already. Boy, oh boy! I mean, these guys got 10 years on you, and I've got more than we need to talk about. So it's part of it. So when you're traveling across Arizona, New Mexico. You need to communicate a little bit. Who gets out and speaks the Spanish? Is it you, Thornburg?
Thornburg. He's fluent in Spanish. Yeah, you wouldn't think, but I
know good words.
Yeah, he knows
taco.
Yeah, Sean knows cerveza.
No, I don't want to. And I don't want to hear.
And that's about that's it.
That's it.
But you know what? We actually use our time wisely. So we had a couple vans. We put the girls all in one van with 2 chaperones and a coach. And Sean, myself, and Mark Thornburg had a van to ourselves on the way up. So it was kind of a working trip. I mean,
they had to fumigate the van.
Well, I was going to ask. So it was kind of warm.
It was warm.
And the girls get into the van after the game.
Ooh. It was that.
You never really realized that females could be so offensive with their post game.
After 7 games in the sun, it gets pretty hot. But I mean, we used our time wisely driving up, and we took notes for everything from Zoom into June to Colorado to even the fall. And, kind of planning out through Christmas, season.
It was a business meeting.
Slow down.
Business meeting.
They'd get mad at me because I'd always we'd get off course and I'd bring it back and say, no, we got to talk about this. We have to talk about this.
We started talking about football and everything else. And
we wanted to talk about McDonald's and Wendy's, and he wanted to talk about softball. So,
well, I like Wendy's.
Yeah.
Or never mind.
Yeah.
So any things that happened in the van? Any good van stories? I mean, we had a player puke once in the van in Houston, and she was going to get sick, and she tells Coach Don she doesn't feel good, and Don tells her, "Do not throw up outside." She was going to hang her head out there. We were on the freeway in Houston, and Don tells her, "Don't puke outside." And so he goes, "What do you want?" He goes, "Just puke there in the car." Now the car is packed with girls. To this day, he has a reason why. I don't know if it was the coating of the paint. I don't know what his reason was, or throwing up. So she Earl's right there and
we
so
didn't
just
have any of
imagine
those.
that. And
that's gross.
Probably the best one for me is going back to when we went to Houston and we went to that museum. Remember we did the museum?
Yeah.
So Lisa Barrera, Alyssa's mom, is sitting in the passenger seat with me, and she's kind of telling me where to go, and I have girls in the back. So she tells me to turn left on the street. So I turn left. It was a one-way street. Woo. So I'm going head on into traffic. And I had to make a decision. So I had to floor it.
Hopefully it was.
And we're all here. We're all here. All those girls are still playing softball. But because it was either stop and they were coming. And so, and Lisa, it turned out to be okay. But that was probably the scariest because she goes, "Oh, left here. I turn left. And all of a sudden there's headlights."
So to all you parents of the
go on a
kids that just
trip.
traveled to New Mexico.
Go on a Brashear trip.
Brashear wrecked a van in Colorado.
That was Manny. Well, that was Manny.
I hope the car company's not listening.
No.
But
there's probably a lot of stories like that, right? You think about it. I mean, again, Coach
Get a little
Coach Don and Coach John. Yeah, they were pretty famous for definitely some of the.
Everybody's safe.
Everybody's safe, yeah.
We promise.
It all works out in the end. But that's why you have a big roster. So.
Yes.
Just in case you lose a couple, they're good.
Happens.
Yeah.
We need a third baseman.
Something happens. We've got the big SoCal qualifier this weekend. So, first hometown qualifier. A lot of teams already cleared out, right? I mean, a lot of teams have qualified. We've actually been pretty fortunate with the organization. So, where are you going to be at this weekend? All over the place?
All over the place. Have that. And then also the event that we're doing out at Rosetta for the Invitational Tournament. So
that's this weekend
as
well?
Weekend.
Okay.
So,
tell us about that.
Exciting. The Beverly Bandits reached out, and they're going to be participating as well. So we're playing an exhibition game against them Friday night. And then the tournament will run Saturday and Sunday. And it's 16 teams in the 14s and 20 in the 16s. And all the teams are, the premier type teams, all qualified teams, 7-inning games. You must have a winner. So it's not an hour 20 drop dead stuff. So it's all competitive play to get everyone ready for, true championship level play in the summer.
Isn't it great to see things come together with minimal effort for you because you've created a reputation now and the operation is strong, and so you make the call and people come. There's a lot of people that want to run events. There's a lot of people that are creative and would like to get involved in things, but I mean, you guys are making it happen pretty much anytime you want to make it happen right now. So what would your advice be to anybody out there that's ambitious, but there's some things you got to know first? What's the trick before you can pull off some things where people want to be part of your event and
be willing to listen? Not always think that, as much as we all have our ideas and our confidence in ourselves to make decisions, also be willing to listen to those that have, kind of come before you. And because a lot of times it's, the mistakes that they've made that have guided them to the fixes and the corrections that have been better. And even for us and for what I'm doing, the same thing. But, and allowing that to, to network, to be willing to have some empathy for people through things and not always have such harsh judgment of everything everybody does at any single moment. So I try not to take myself too serious. This, I'm enjoying what I'm doing. And I love working with people, but I guess it would be those things would be to listen and then to also have empathy for others and not, have such harsh judgment towards the industry or an organization, because the more we work together, the more opportunities are going to come for all of us, whether it's a team or players or families or running an event. So, I mean, our 18s are playing, Mercado and Tid reached out. We're going to play a friendly, Saturday with Mercado's teams, my teams, Briggs, Little Rebels are coming into town. So,
excellent.
So it's going to be another busy weekend.
Yeah. Gosh, he sounds so smart and so profound when he talks like that too.
This is my voice, my radio voice.
That was a very
good job.
Good. Very nice, Sean.
Kind of building on what Sean said too, on the corporate side of things, I think it's, or on the business side of things, I should say, it's important to sometimes be willing not to make that extra because it would be really easy to. I mean, there's tons of teams on the waiting list and all this stuff.
Grow it slow
and say, look, no, we want this caliber of team in there. Everyone's PGF qualified or championship qualified play, as well as 7-inning games. So obviously fields aren't going to, games are going to take longer and all that stuff, but to be willing to sacrifice some of the financial aspects, at least as of now, the profit, to kind of really build a great event and really get these teams in there. I think that's huge. And then lastly, like he said, and like you've been doing for years, is really trying to get organizations to work together. Right. And so you see now where, we're starting to plan things, on a weekend where we call a couple of the top teams from different organizations. They come out and we just do something on our own at a park, not a profit thing, not just like, let's get together and let's be competitive for 7 innings.
And it's more with the organizations that in the past weren't easy to work with. And so it's kind of happening, guys, isn't it?
It's cool.
It's
really cool.
Like, it's realizing what's in front of us, but really what could happen if we can convey that message the right way. And, I think there's plenty of time for it just to get better and better. So that's been really, really exciting. I'm very happy with the response. So, and I want people to hear that too, because I want people to be ambitious, but they need to understand the trick. Like I said, going back to Coach Don and what he understands about pulling off a great event. And the reality is, when you're running an event, stuff's going to happen. So you see Sean a lot more than I do, but I've seen him at work enough. But he handles the fires and the stress, because you're always looking at that captain. You're always looking at the person in charge to see how they're taking things. So it's going to happen. So whether the sprinklers are going on, or an umpire doesn't show up, or there's so many different things, but you got to prepare for that. I think that's a message too to the ambitious, is that you get your basic template for what you're going to do, and then stuff happens and you're not prepared, and you hit the panic button. And when you hit the panic button, that's when let's just say you don't build your credibility that way. I don't think you blow it, because I think we all made mistakes and you just learn from them. And again, I think that's the thing about the combine. A lot of things that we've done as well too is that there's been a long process. None of this is overnight success. Right. You make things happen. You can do something tomorrow, but if it's the first time you've done it, plan on it. Yep. Kind of having
always have like a contingency plan.
Yeah. There's always a learning curve. So we get through the qualifier this week. Then we got Colorado a couple weeks. Yep. So you guys would be just a little bit busy there as well.
Colorado is nuts for us, for me in particular, but for Sean for sure.
I actually probably my favorite week.
Yep.
Always been my favorite trip of the year.
Mine too.
Just because there's obviously still a lot of competitive play. So whether that's, a national event or whatever, but just being out of, away from home and going to, Colorado is beautiful. And also, I enjoy the way that we do it as far as housing the girls and creating like a college atmosphere for them, kind of freeing them from the pressures of a car ride, being able to kind of, maybe I'm a control freak, but having the control of our team throughout the process. And I always look forward to it. It's a lot of work, a lot of time, but at the same time, it's to me, it's very much enjoyable.
So you are transporting your kids the whole week, right? They're staying with their parents, or they're staying with other players? They're staying with other players.
Yeah. So we have suites that they share, and with refrigerators and.
Do you have any professional help for the separation anxiety that might take place with maybe a parent or a kid, or just a conversation, or is that a beer?
Just me.
Or staying somewhere where there's a bar.
We've had some meetings over the years.
Absolutely.
Well, but I think it's important because you've heard me say if I talk to a dad, I said you're going to talk to your daughter about batting until she's 18, and you're not allowing her to really experience things that she's going to have to make a decision. That's one of the things that people don't follow up on the end of something that happened a while ago. So, like the first early verbal commit, did that person graduate? Did they go on? Are they healthy? Or what's their emotional well-being? Like, we don't worry about that stuff until your kid's screwed up. Yeah. And then you're worried all over the place because you want them to be okay. And the trend of the early commits and the early verbals, and now the transfer rates. I mean, every college coach that we talked to said that, man, their phones are flooded with transfers, that they're transferring more this year than any other year.
This is the busiest year for me. Like I've always received calls this summer, unreal.
Yeah, and even within our organization. So you think back, these are the kids that were making decisions at 14 and looking at a picture or taking a trip and saying, and being enamored with all the obvious, especially some of these, university life, no matter where it is. It could be a mid-major, anything like that, but it's enamoring. So there it is. What do you really know about yourself? What do you know? So now we're seeing the debris. And it'd be like, again, let's say this is what fed our families, was not just us coaching, but the commission that we get after our kids finish their job at school. Mm-hmm. Holy cow. I mean, we're worried about getting paid. We really have to make sure that our kids are ready. So that's, again, another hopeful benefit of the new recruiting legislation, to kind of balance that out a little bit, because it's ridiculous right now.
A couple of things on that. Going back to Colorado, speaking as a dad, I thought, it was great for my daughter to experience this 2 years ago with Sean, because like you said, they learned to dwell in quarters, 4 people in a room. Sean, myself, and some of the coaches, we go up the day before. We hit up Costco and all these different stores. And so they stay in a room with a fridge and pots and pans, and we load their fridge up with pasta and
beautiful.
We do a spaghetti night, and then what happens is one room is doing the noodles, and another's doing sauce, and the other one's making salads. So we make them have to, and they enjoy it. The girls actually really enjoy it, and and I think it helps bring camaraderie and working together, right? That whole whether it's cliche or not, it's true,
right?
And so then my birthday's in that week, so they've been the girls have had a lot of fun with that too. Right. Some cakes that said happy birthday.
Happy expletive birthday. Coach Sean.
Speaking his language.
Yeah. So
got it.
Naomi.
Going back to transfers, and we can skip this if you want, but in talking to some of the coaches, especially this year with a crazy amount of transfer athletes, a lot of it's the usual suspects, meaning, or the usual reasons, playing time, someone is mean to me, blah, blah, blah. and all that stuff. And at the older age, that's why some of these kids are transferring. I'm wondering what you feel, kind of switching it back on you, because what I kind of talked to some of the coaches, and I told some of those coaches, you know who I blame? I blame some of us travel ball coaches, because some of us travel ball coaches bend over backwards and to make accommodation for that pitcher or that kid or that whatever. And then it translates, they leave your program, you do everything you can do to keep them in your program. And then they leave, and then they go to college, and they still want that entitlement. They still want, this coach took care of me for, whatever, and, cut my dues down, or we didn't have to go to certain practices when it was hot.
And have been set in front of them.
So
right?
I think we're kind of enabling that behavior.
Sure. I mean, it starts with us. I think we have to take responsibility as a culture down here, the grassroots culture, because but again, it's not to defend, but the reality of our culture is that it's people who volunteer their time. Their kids needed a coach. So you started at what age? When she was 8, when she was 10, you came in, boom, you got into travel ball, you got bit by the bug. If we only had people who are whatever certified or qualified, there aren't many coaches left. So everybody comes into this with good intentions. And so that's the first dynamic that I think we have to look at. Okay, so realistically, what are we going to expect? That everybody's perfectly qualified to teach, finance, all these different things. Yeah. So, I encourage all coaches to, once you have a sense of the people that are on your team and you see some stability in certain areas, start to ask people what they do for a living. Supplement. There's so many different hats. We just did a piece on the 5 different coaching hats of firecrackers, and so all of that has to come together so that we educate our kids. In order to educate our kids, we have to know how to educate. So it's not just what you know. How can you communicate? How can you read body language so they're listening, they're not listening? Our post-game talks are the classroom. But then, okay, post-game talk after losing 3 games, do we need to go on for an hour? No, that's not the time. So it's you have to fill all that stuff out. Over the 2 or 3 decades we've been doing this, the feedback that we get from players. If I didn't get responses and feedback from players about the post-game talks, about what, then we wouldn't have continued to do them. But I continue to feed what responds and how we can get things across. I'm very proud overall of, again, our initial reputation of the mental toughness of our players. And then I'm very proud that I think most of the organization gets that and is trying to teach that. And that is resiliency, dignity, integrity. And it's really hard to implement those principles when things aren't going well and you're freaking out and you're lonely or frustrated or whatever. But what do you do with that? Yeah. The separation of the professional mind and what I call our human mind, we don't do enough to really promote that and teach that. So you have a pitcher in the circle worrying about failure instead of executing a pitch. And that starts with us, because when we react and we get emotional, and again, I'll start with myself, my own learning curve, how they see that. And then we're supposed to tell them, I'll give them the talk, act like a pilot, speak like a pilot. I don't want to, Lexi Campbell this weekend, I don't want to hear you in the cockpit looking for your purse and telling me you lost your flight plan, because there's a part of Lexi, and she's extremely smart. But boy, when she manages her mind and she thinks the way she does in school, oh my gosh, it's a different kid. So one day you're going to watched her pitch, 7 games for you all the way to a championship. And then at other times, a player like that who's extremely intelligent can throw 5 balls in the dirt in a row and look around like, this fan ain't plugged in, man. It's not there. And it's all mental. Yeah. So I think, Roman, I think the challenge is to continue to understand our responsibilities so that our kids feel prepared. And they say to themselves, I am prepared. I have been taught. We get that initially, hopefully, from our families or somebody that teaches us how to be growing up, and then a teacher, whatever it is, a coach. I mean, I'm in front of you because of one coach that I respected so much that I never wanted to not have his respect. And in order to do that, I had to change my behavior. Nobody else had really even inspired, motivated, or I had even given a crap enough to think about that. And it would have been all self-destruction after that. So yeah, so Colorado is and I think the last thing I'd say to Colorado is to coaches out there, and even with the hopefully lessening pressure of recruiting, don't overdo it. Don't worry too much about changing their routines to perform better. So, the more you talk about altitude, the more your kids are going to think about it. Okay. The more you alter their diets on what you think they need to eat as a team or this or that. And I mean, like, take away a lot of things that they're used to eating, the more you're going to change their metabolism. And sometimes they're not going to respond. We know that tryptophan is in turkey and it makes you sleepy, but there's going to be one kid on your team that has a turkey sandwich and goes and gets 3 hits, so everyone's everyone's different. I think preparing for the heat is different. I think sometimes you utilize coffee in the loser's bracket, and sometimes whatever, if it's an energy drink or something, because caffeine has an effect on. Used to be a day when a lot of kids didn't drink coffee, and so caffeine would have a better effect on their body's ability to convert oxygen to energy. But now they all drink.
Now they're getting used to it. They're acclimated to it.
Now they need it. It's funny how many high school kids you're in line in Starbucks in the morning, but they got to have a cup of Joe or whatever that is before they're getting into class. So, If you go to Colorado and you don't experience river rafting, and our schedules are really busy. So, and you guys are working triple of what most people are. But go see the mountains, go river rafting, let your kids see something. Because in 10 years, how many scores of games do you think they're going to remember? Of course, the dads will remember all of them, because we still talk about 10 internationals. Yep. But the kids aren't going to remember. But you will never forget Roman falling out of the boat or whatever might happen, or and that, all that stuff. There was some
butt crack.
And
Thornberg fell out of the boat, by the way.
Whatever it is,
it really did happen. Mangrello pulled him up. John Mangrello had Superman strength, and he pulled Thornberg straight out of the water.
It happened.
Awesome.
Wow. I mean, you said butt crack earlier. We had a dad hit his butt on a rock, and I mean his whole backside was purple the next day. So not scaring people out of it. Hey, check the snowpack here. Check out the runoff and what's going on.
They could either do the river rafting or go for a car ride with Brashear.
Yeah, it's all.
It's a little less expensive. So excited about Colorado coming up, and then bang bang, PGF, knock it out. See what happens. Turn over these seniors. So many seniors now. So look at Haley. How long has she been a firecracker?
Since 8 years.
So those. I'm just saying you didn't see that back in the day, 20 years ago, and I'm short on the responsibility of those kids. I've told you before, we should do a dinner for them. Because it's just, I'm very appreciative. We are very appreciative of anybody that chooses to stay for the right reasons, because that's not typical in travel ball, and maybe it's because so many people don't provide what's needed. And so, and even within the organization, we have families that want to position themselves. As long as they do it the right way, they can move within the organization. But just to stay at Firecracker or whatever organization, I think that's something that says something good about the times, now as well. And she's going to be going off to college, so you're going to be like Sean next year.
Oh, I know. I'm going to have.
Well, she's got one more year. So she's got one more year.
Yeah, don't send her off that quick. I'm already freaking out a little bit. Yeah. But I think going back to that too is just plug in for all the firecracker coaches out there. You don't have to be in Southern California. Plug into what's available to you. Things like this. Things like that you do. Make your family, one of the things that it's funny. I was talking to Sean this week. I don't even know if you remember because we're so busy, but one of the things that I take pride in is the amount or the lack of amount of turnover that we have with our players, meaning once they're in our system, the firecracker system, and then the Thornburg, Brashear, whatever umbrella that is, how the kids kind of want to, stay and stick around. And I think some of it is yes, because we're doing some things right. But the other thing is we promote the firecracker, the things that you put out. If Robin sends out an email, we forward it to all the families. If you send out a podcast, we do. If you're doing an event here, if you're doing whatever, we tell the parents plug in so you have that.
It works on a couple different levels. And you think about it, I want you to have your own operations, your own cultures, your own signature on what it is that you're doing. But I don't ever want there to be something that you can't defer or look for guidance in. That's something you haven't experienced. So I always want to be here for that. And so, that can be a misperception or conception of my roles is, do I just sit here and count the firecracker teams and not care about anybody? I mean, really, what's the best way, would you say, for coaches to maximize their experience with what's available? I'm not putting things in front of it. We've got an on-demand platform, and we're going to, again, I've talked about this for a couple of years. It's hard to get these things going.
Sure.
And really deliver them the way they need to be delivered. I'm very excited about what's coming up in the future. Yep. But what's the best way for a coach to maximize their firecracker experience? It's there.
I would say right off the bat, the website. I think if our firecracker coaches visited the firecracker website as much as we hit refresh on the Triple Crown or PGF website to see if something's posted, or Hay Bucket, I think you would get much more value from the firecracker website because of the things that you have on there, the alumni players, the kids that are alumni playing in the World Series or in super regionals, or their stories, or
we just reran the Sis Bates.
Yep, I saw it. It was awesome. I mean, and to hear Sis and her experience, as well as the accolade that Amanda Freed just received from
Hall of Fame.
UCLA Hall of Fame. And I mean, just stuff like that where all that stuff's there. So if you plug in, again, going back to that, it's just those resources are available. The podcast that you do and now, the video and on demand. I mean, why, instead of spending, 2 hours on a Wednesday night hitting fungo to your team in a different state, maybe
Plenty
get together
of time for that. Take one
maybe
week
get
off.
together, get some popcorn, get a big screen in the park or something and show the podcast or what,
Right.
just again, make them feel like they're part of something because they are,
And I think part of that is because, again, I've always been very aware to not put things right in front of people and stick their nose in it. There's a couple things we mandate, but not much. But on our side of it, it's also making sure that you know what's there. If you can't smell the chocolate chip cookies, you don't know that they're there. And we also know that if we put chocolate chip cookies right in front of somebody and using that as an example, that they won't eat it. Like you put it right in front of them, they don't want it. Yeah. But in softball, if you bake cookies and you put it in the other room and you lock the door into the room, they go nuts because they smell it and then the door's locked. And so everybody wants it. It's an interesting psychology that work with. Our culture is very fickle and they become very viral, but at some point things work, So what would you say, Sean, for advice to coaches on how to maximize what
I think even as Roman is speaking, for me, it's like understanding that don't necessarily base this on instant gratification, right? A lot of things in people's minds are like, unless there's something that's going to be like, monetary or tangible, like if they don't see it and feel it, they're almost feeling as if it's not there. And it's a kind of by osmosis, right? All the time in the inner times here, like there was, again, I talk about driving out here with Amanda on Thursday nights when she was 11 or 12 years old and, leaving work at 5:30, 2 hours to get here, spend 30, 40 minutes here, talk to you a little bit, let Amanda hit, and then an hour and a half to get home. And, the car rides weren't always enjoyable. I'm not going to lie.
Right.
But again, it's like kind of through the osmosis of understanding the learnings, it comes. Nothing necessarily came from one individual Thursday night.
Right. There are stories that happen and that took place in one night or one tournament, but it's a collectively.
And I tell that to our team when we start the season, that when we do things, not everything that we do is going to be in their best individual
not their preference. That's right.
And same thing for me. Like when we make schedules or we do things, not everything is based upon making it to my liking. It's based upon what's going to be in the best interest of our collective team.
Sure.
And so even within this, so like as Roman's speaking, the families and the coaches and the players understanding that again through the period of time, if they invest their themselves, the stuff will come to them, and a lot of things will come to them. And I think that would be part of it. But of course, today's society is everybody wants something right now.
Right.
And so, that would be my thing, because I remember, again, coming out here for all the different seminars and things that you provided. And even like we talked about the camps and, myself going out there and you telling me whatever I needed to do at that individual camp in those days, those were the times and periods where, I was learning.
Sure.
And again, did it,
cutting your teeth.
Did I make any money that day, or did I have to sit in traffic that day? I mean, there was parts of the element that maybe weren't ideal for me, but I knew it was going to be a learned thing.
Now, it can pay off now.
Right. And again, it was through a time and an investment in myself and an investment for my players and an investment for my own daughter, that to me, everything that I did was always thinking of that, not necessarily myself, thinking about what it meant for others. And how could that help me raise them?
And then in turn, it becomes a win for you because it's gratifying. You see those things. Isn't it great when we see our players? So we've all learned, manage our behavior. That's probably the number one target area that I think always needs the most work. But isn't it great when we see our players manage their behavior better? And so there is, the instant gratification, as you mentioned, that win is the championship, the tournament now. But the long-term win is, what would you pay for dignity? If your daughter didn't have any, if she lowers her head, if her shoulders are, and you just didn't see there, what would you pay to put it in there? If someone said, I can make her feel this, and you start to think about that with our kids of if something's missing, what would we do to implement happiness or whatever it is? You go, my God, I'd give everything that I had. Well, these concepts are here, but you have to nurture them. And it doesn't mean we say it all the time. We don't make mistakes. You have to own your mistakes, especially nowadays. Try to act like you don't make mistakes. That's the greatest thing about softball, because we still have a lot of coaches that have been taught old school. And, I'm one of them. And if you don't make that transition to the way things are right now, this culture is going to get you. I mean, I'm just telling all you guys right now that you justify the way you are, and we can do this. And hey, when you win ball games, you can talk about this and being the guy and all, but there's just too many pitfalls, too many traps. We're doing this instead of seminars now. All those things that would take place in one night, but that was for the people that were there. Now this, hopefully there's a couple more people listening to this. So I think that's really important. Also to watch your operation with all the guys that started with you, excuse me, and that are still there. Yeah. And so you have because I think that speaks something. I mean, the gentlemen in our dugout have been there quite a long time. And so that longevity, as opposed to environments that have a lot of turnover and coaches are gone and different coaches, that says something. So
I think, even a guy like Manny, who I always talk about, who's, now with his younger son and daughter and not with us all the time, but always making sure that, if he needs something or wants something, to come back and give him the opportunities, because he loves to be around it. And, and I think, we have our moments and disagreements and things, but at the same time, there's always a level of respect and understanding. So it's never personal. It's just business. And sometimes in business, you have to make hard decisions and say things to get your point across.
Yeah.
But even as you spoke about with players, I did this, I think this summer when we were talking, doing the 16s and the 18s for the last 3 to 4 years. We've basically had 20 on a team each year. And in those 4 years, there's only been, if I remembered correctly, one player that left that didn't go to your 18 team, meaning Rico and Weil, or to my 18s, or was staying within the 16s, and then they graduated into college. So you're talking, 160 kids or something like that over the last 4 years, and we've had one player that left. So that makes me proud.
We spoke on the last time you were in the studio about the strength of the Brashear culture, and it's evident in so many different ways. And collectively within the Brashear culture, we're going to say there's probably, and so I'm not going to include the coaches of each team, but as far as the core of the culture, I'm going to say there's between 5 and 10 or 8 and 12 people that do so many things that are needed. So again, being the guy, having the confidence that we have, but also knowing that we're only as good as the people that are around us, and that it really is. I mean, the team effort is just kind of crazy. So that's why we're.
Well, I tell them always that their entity will only be as good as what they can sustain it to be. That what I'm going to be able to provide isn't necessarily what they are, and theirs is going to be even more important.
Right.
And so their teams are their teams. And what everything else that I can hopefully help with, just like you do for me and you do for the organization, those things have to be self-sustained. Yeah. And I think those guys that have been able to do that have proven that, and then they've used, just like I used, through your words of wisdom over the years and templates. They've taken some of mine, taken some of yours, and they've added their own personality and way of being to be successful. And when they have a question, they call.
Because without those, then their natural path would be they think they need to win. And those that are still on that path are finding out, how come I'm not getting the respect? Because I just qualified. You're not getting the respect because you're not earning it. Like, you earn it with these things that we're talking about. Yep. And so I think that I'm really proud that we can set those examples, and there are enough people following them, to really make it pay off. I mean, bottom line is, we're in the service industry, and I can speak for you two, and I hope you can speak for me, is the confidence that we have in ourselves and whatever our win is never comes first. It really is. I mean, we have to be confident in ourselves, and there are takeaways for us because we enjoy what we're doing, but it really, we're only as good as the way our kids feel, that challenge of every time, try to make it every time that your players get in the car, they say they want to go back. The dog days of softball, there's, the game's going to kick you in the face, and, you're going to wonder if you want to play it, if you ever want to play again. Most girls go through, if not all girls go through a stage. We talked about this with Amanda where, they think about hanging them up. So what do you do? Does she feel like she shouldn't feel that way? No. And they understand that they've all felt that way. That last podcast we did with Mel and Amanda and them talking about recruiting, I encourage all of our parents to hear that, because you're going to hear how it's going to be okay if you don't know at 15. I mean, Amanda says if you would have seen her at 15, you wouldn't have liked her. And she was a great player, but physically she wasn't doing anything there wasn't anything physical about her that you're going, wow, this is going to be a great college player. And look at some of these kids that we've seen that go on and do some great things. And, watching Alyssa Barrera come out of your program and go up and then really make a name for herself and have a great freshman year. And she's done a good job at Utah, but watching them kind of find that place up there, and not only on the field, but socially and within the culture. So it's, guys, it gets better and better and better and better. So not that there is, but was there anything else on your mind that you wanted to? Do you have any businesses you want to promote or anything like that, Roman, or anything? You doing any performances at night we want to go visit, or comedy or dancing, or?
I'll be performing at Chris and Pitt's on Wednesdays and Fridays. No, I mean, everything's
Chris or Pitt?
Yeah, both. Just know, I guess, I don't know about in closing, but one of the things while Sean was talking and you were talking, I was just thinking too is, for you firecracker coaches out there that are listening to this, or, we're busy, but we're always available as well. And one of the things that Sean has been really good about, and we've tried to be good about an umbrella, is to collaborate and work with. You don't have to be, a lot of people say like, oh, I need to be under this umbrella to do this, or no, just reach out.
Guidance is guidance,
we're all available, and we might not have the answer that you want to hear, or we might not, but we can talk about it, and maybe you can even help us. Maybe you know something that we, you have an experience that we don't know, and together we can, just move forward.
I think it's a really good point, because I think on the outside you see something evolve. So whether it's the firecrackers, we've heard it from coaches that have come over and said, whoa, on the outside I'm looking at that, oh, they're firecrackers. They've got like a cult, or they've got whatever this is, a cult. It's a culture. It's not a cult. There's some wacko leader trying to lead you off the end of a cliff.
He's a little wacko.
But it's at times. But you think about it, it's the right ingredients for something that works. And when you're on the outside of it, you think that, oh, you got, I'm not in the Brashear culture, so they get all the bursts, they get all that, that is a natural and an understandable perception when you're inexperienced and you come from other places where things have been like that. But just try asking, and then find out if you guys are approachable. What has happened? Yeah. Is this an exclusive thing where you're on the outside, or is it inclusive? So when you catch yourself on feeling like you're on the outside, is it because you're on the outside and we put you there, or you are learning how to plug in? Do you want us knocking on your door every 2 minutes, telling you and checking, and maybe some people, I think in the big picture, no. Mm-mm. But if you don't plug into the power strip, you don't get power. And I'm not the only source of power. That's the greatest thing about the organization. Now we have so many experienced coaches, regional managers, more umbrella type coaches that are taking care of other teams. But there's a lot of great stories. So even within your own regions, across the country, because what takes place here is completely different than what takes place in the Southeast. And then we've got our Northeast pocket. We've got our team in Wisconsin. That's completely different area up there. So, in one sense, we go through different things, but in the end, it's basically the same kind of fight. So I wanted to spin it, because it can get easy to spend like 2 or 3 hours in here. And part of this is, maybe people might have heard at the beginning of the podcast that keeping it light, enjoying ourselves, having fun, poking fun at each other.
Oh no.
Well, here's the thing, right? We talk about this because there's this hypersensitivity with a certain type of individual, and sometimes it can be our players, and it's not about the poking fun, because does poking fun qualify you as a bully? If you're, and so when we talk about kids, it's not right. But my gosh, the coping mechanisms of coaches, if we weren't sarcastic, so all you psychologists out there, you can write me and tell me what I'm supposed to do. But if we weren't sarcastic, talking smack out of to each other and ribbing each other, and if you couldn't take it, you need to get out of the dugout. You need to go get a chair and find a tree and read your Kindle or something like that. But that is something I want all coaches to understand. And then if there's any players or parents, if you walk within the dugout and you hear something that's a little off or a little of this, we are constantly entertaining ourselves. Yep. I mean, it's always. As soon as you walked into the conference room today and you saw Caswell on one end of the room, and then you saw Juliana and Reagan, he walks in and he goes, oh my God, he goes, it's obvious all the brains are on that end of the room, and Steve's sitting there right in front of him, and Steve just looks up, he
looked up and went like this,
bro. Dude, but it's such a And now it's not enjoyable when someone's not enjoying your joke, but my gosh, sticks and stones may break my bones. Words will never hurt me. Coaches continue to have fun with each other. And, sometimes you see them in the dugout and you feel the tension before and it's a must win. It's and I get that, but try having a conversation with that coach you're competing against while he's at the third base coach. And, we walk out there and then you just kind of test the waters. The guy's like, yeah, good day. Like, okay, we're gonna go there. It's like we're the NBA today or something. And I get it. We're competitive. See, if we didn't have any success, we can say, well, we don't know what it's like to win, and so we just But no, man. I mean, just let's build it together, people. I mean, we have a great opportunity, and the hypocrisy of it's all about the kids, and then so often the kids are the last one to have a voice, or they're the third party in the equation. So I think we can keep building. So I don't know what's around the next corner, guys. Well, maybe the next corner or two, but it's just going to get better and better. And it just seems a lot of these things. We've had some great memories, and I wish we could talk a little more about just some of the time we spend together and some of the things we do. But I don't think that would. Maybe another time when we write a book. Okay, so in the department of just kind of getting to know you a little bit on a personal side, I'm going to go through some questions, and these are just kind of fun, get to know you stuff. So I'm going to ask you some things. So be careful.
165. 6'2".
All right. So, all right. Let me ask you this. Here's an easy one. On a scale from 1 to 10, how strict were your parents? Scale from 1 to 10.
For me, 5.
5?
Not very strict at all. I was kind of, I felt like
I can see the lack of discipline.
Relax. My parents were the type to, as long as I was getting my job done, whatever it may be, whether it was in the workplace or in the classroom or on the field or whatever, they left me alone. Never had a curfew, could come in whenever time I wanted. However, they did monitor it, and whenever my grades did drop or whatever, then they would pull the reins back. So I would say they were not strict at all.
Okay. How about you, Sean?
My mom, probably a 5, and my dad like an 8.5 or a 9.
Wow, interesting mix. Yeah. I had great parents, but I think they were about a 3.
Yeah.
So I had all the freedom.
But my mom always won.
Your mom always
won. Well,
I think that should be with
which why Sean is always innocent even today.
Yes.
Gets away with
my mom.
Whatever. Yeah.
This might be an easy one. What would you pick? Being world class attractive, being a genius, or being famous for doing something great?
Well, this is easy because I'm already all 3 of those. However,
what's your favorite about yourself?
I think being famous for doing something great. I think that's awesome.
Come on, Brashear.
This is just like a T right there, right? Like it's just set up. But I would go with that, doing something, being famous for doing something.
Even if you turn into Quasimodo in your face and you
You're almost there. You're 2 years away from that.
Have you found you're looking in the mirror less these days because you're getting older, or is that you just look more pictures of yourself from?
I'm getting older. I know.
It's tough.
It sucks.
Who are the 3 or 1, but 3 greatest living musicians?
Oh,
doesn't matter.
Tony Rico.
Oh, beautiful.
Because he's here.
Thanks.
No, just kidding.
Ass kisser.
Hendrix.
Okay, I guess he's living in some component.
Oh, did you say? Oh, you said living? I thought you said living or unliving. You said living.
You know what? Let's go with Hendrix. Just 3 favorite musicians. Let's keep it simple.
Well, mine's James Hetfield.
Yeah,
that's easy for me.
A little Metallica.
Yeah, and then I go all the way opposite. I go to Stevie Wonder.
Excellent.
Yeah, he's out of sight. That was a bad joke.
That was really bad.
I know.
Okay, good luck qualifying this weekend.
But he is one of my favorites. He's about as good as most of the umpires out there. However,
now really good luck qualifying this weekend.
Who else? Hetfield.
All right, let's keep it there.
Okay.
What was your favorite toy growing up? What were you attached to? Did you have one?
Wiffle ball bat. I mean, I played wiffle ball nonstop.
Mine, a radio. I was a record player. I was always listening to music, vinyl, from my parents' collection, my mom's collection, just always listening to music. There wasn't a time I didn't come home from school and my mom wasn't blasting Anita Baker through the house. And,
Did you ever want to go into the music industry, DJing, anything like that? Did you ever think about any of those things? I would imagine, or a radio DJ or anything like that.
Christmas parties, we could talk about that.
Okay, we're not going. We're staying on topic.
Okay.
And yes, I did. I worked in the music industry for a good long time. I
have seen some of your musical experience.
Next question is what?
Okay. All right. What's your favorite movie
of all time? Godfather 1.
Godfather 1. Sean?
Wow. Because mine would have to go into like if it's a comedy, action, stuff like that. So because
anything with Bruce Willis,
I love Bruce Willis,
makes him excited.
So Die Hard is an all time. I can watch that anytime. And then comedy, something about Mary, something like that.
Really?
Interesting.
I thought it was sure because with all the Step Brother quotes that you guys both do.
I love Will Ferrell. So but
okay, what's the one thing you remember about kindergarten? First year in school.
The girl that peed her pants all the time.
Oh man,
there you go.
I was a boy. Oh. No, go ahead.
No, that was it. I remember. That could be that. Like I said, it's the first thing that pops in your head.
She was held back. I remember. And I mean, I'm not trying to be mean. I just remember.
We don't have to mention her name.
I didn't. I don't remember her name.
The one thing I remember, and it still frustrates me today, is I couldn't draw, and I still can't. I'm not kidding. Like.
That's when the nightmare started, when it was arts and crafts. So you're like, duh.
I hated arts and crafts. That was I'd rather
stay in the lines, Gallegos.
I couldn't. I mean, I could color, sure, but I mean, I can't even draw a stick figure. Like it's crooked. I'm not kidding. It's horrible.
Okay, that was interesting. All right, I'm glad I know that. If you could swap places for one day, who would you like to live like for a day?
Tom Brady.
Tom Brady over James Hetfield.
Yeah, Giselle.
Okay. All right. Anyone with you?
Yeah, someone just like one of those super genius, the Apple guy, the Google guy.
Okay. All right.
Those guys just impress the heck out of me. Someone with a vision.
All right. Favorite ice cream flavor? It's the manly question.
Rocky Road. And all of them.
I have 31 of them, but I would probably say cookies and cream.
Cookies and cream. Mm-hmm. All right. What's your most embarrassing childhood memory?
Oh.
Go ahead, Roman.
Pop up? I mean, could be that. But
yeah, when I was a kid, I was like the lead in a play, The Gingerbread Man, and I was in. Shut up, Sean. And I was in a costume, right?
Oh no.
No, yeah. And right at the beginning of the play, I had to pee, and I
thought you were going to say you tried to eat yourself.
No, that's a whole other story. And then and sure enough, while I was on stage, now I must have been in kindergarten, so maybe I was the girl that peed her pants all the time. But it was hidden because I was in a costume. Well, what I didn't realize is we were going to graduate after that. So they called me up on stage to get my diploma, not in my gingerbread costume. And my parents put me in some beige slacks that were just wet from the waist down to the knees on both sides. That was pretty darn embarrassing.
All right. That's a nice one.
Yeah.
Wow.
You beat that?
I think I was a freshman in high school.
I'll pop in there real quick with hitting a triple when I was 9 and sliding into third base and just let it go as I slid. And third baseman stood up and told everybody that I had peed my pants. And so it was kind of a tough place to be because I was one of the better players in the league with that kind of status. But I instantly sank to the whatever that is when
were you safe or out?
He peed his pants. Of course, I was safe. Yes. And my coach came out with a towel and started rubbing it like he was going to rub it out. And he realized he was rubbing my crotch. And after about 3 of them, he just kind of looked at me and goes, "Come with me." And I was like, "I need to stay on third." And so I stayed on third base. I hope it was. Yeah. I stayed on third. Scored. I didn't care. I'd rather play and pee than not play.
I don't remember anything, too horrific. I do remember an all-star game where, if you remember, the Bad News Bears and Tanner, the shortstop, and the glove throwing kind of stuff. That happened, and I was pitching and I didn't perform real well, and I chucked the glove and kicked it throughout the field, and that was pretty embarrassing, especially now looking back in the moment of the anger. But my dad grabbing me, yeah, wow. But yeah, that was pretty bad. I didn't perform. I got all mad, and I went total Tanner, Bad News Bears out there. Yeah. So
well, it happens to the best of us.
Yeah.
What's your favorite time of the day?
Go to sleep.
Yeah, mine's definitely the evenings when I'm winding down. I'm definitely much more early. I'm early morning. I mean, there's times.
So you like my 10:30 text at night?
Yeah. See, and I don't respond till the morning, right? Because I'm half asleep. Sean and I usually do our best contact with each other right around 6 a.m., 6:30. We're going back and forth.
Physical contact, or that?
That's
we roll over, look at each other, and say
cuddle.
we better get up.
Yeah, I ask him for a light.
We better get up, Roman.
Yeah,
That was New Mexico.
Because even if I have the day off, I'll be awake by 6:30. I just can't sleep in, so I got to get a cup of coffee and then start to think about, okay, what is it that's on my list of agenda to do today?
Okay.
But so as far as favorite time, though, it's knowing that, okay, I need to.
Everything's done.
Yeah, everyth's done. Shut off the phone, whatever, and then go to sleep.
I don't know about this one. What's the sound you love the most? Speaking of you and Roman in
mine's
the morning.
easy. The ocean.
All right.
Ocean.
Wow, I'm not that deep.
Metallica?
Sound of a beer. Sound of a beer opening up.
Hey now.
Sound of a winning ticket.
Here, I'll bring it to you. It's the sound of a happy dugout, right? It's the sound of the softball field that's united and engaged to be in there.
Oh man, I wish we had that sound bite of oh.
Yeah, I know it's sappy, but I'm not deep like Roman. Ocean
good.
stuff.
Oh, I love the ocean.
What's your favorite kind of sandwich?
Boy.
A poor boy?
No.
What?
Ooh.
That's good.
You're going to
Pastrami.
Togo's? You're going
Pastrami.
All right.
Yep, I like pastrami sandwiches.
Yeah, that's I'd say pastrami, a tri-tip, steak sandwich, something like that.
I like that hot turkey sandwich at BJ's. They've got one that's. It used to be a roast beef dip, but they've got one with turkey right now. That's
You're always getting a BLT.
I get a BLTA a lot. Bacon,
What is
lettuce,
healthy?
tomato, avocado. Yeah, that's usually a go-to right around 10 a.m.
Coach Don had a story about being at the BLD complex, and he walked up to the counter and said, "Hey, I'll take a BLT." And the young person working behind the counter goes, "We don't have those." And he said, he looked at the menu and said, "How about a bacon, lettuce, and tomato?" And they go, "Oh, okay."
Oh boy. Perfect.
Can you imagine how Don came back to the table with his hands up, saying, "We're saving them all." I don't know why we're saving them all. All right. Who's your celebrity crush?
Tom Brady.
Boy, earlier I thought it was him to get the Giselle, but it's really might have been that.
I'd make Giselle leave.
Roman, quickly.
Oh, I don't know. I don't have one.
You don't have one?
No.
Come on.
Come on, it can be a man. It's all right.
Mark Thornburg.
I appreciate greatness, and when someone does something, I'm not even a Patriot fan per se, but even like a Derek Jeter, guys that handle themselves in a way that make you say, "Wow, I wish I could command myself not only as the athlete that they are or were in Jeter's case, but to the professionalism, the day in, day out way of being the way they are." I'm trying, right, to make sure that I can conduct myself in a professional manner.
The discipline, right?
Because
it's not easy.
they have to get frustrated or get a question asked to them in a press conference that they want to say something.
And there's got to be that place where they do say it.
Yeah.
We have our place where we talk. We kind of
in bed with Giselle.
play with the line here sometimes. But yeah, you have to know when and where. That's the political hat that we talk about with firecar coaches, knowing what and when and where to say things. All right, last one is what's the best piece of advice that you've ever received? We're going to end with this.
Me?
Yeah, you.
I'll start off with one.
Okay.
I think first one that sticks into my head that I like to pass on to the girls, because sometimes it doesn't always fit into their achievement and then providing picture of life. Find something that you love to do and find a way to get paid for it.
I think mine just goes back to the golden rule. Just do unto others as you would have them do to you. Treat people with respect and treat people the way you want to be treated. And I think does
it work?
I think eventually it does. It pays dividends. Absolutely. It absolutely does. There's one or two occasions when you're not going to crack a certain nut, so to speak.
But look at our culture.
But yeah, it works. It does.
Coach Doug, the legend, Doug Myers, has been with us. We've been so fortunate, and he's been spending a lot of time with you.
He's awesome.
We should have talked about that.
Yep.
He is just loving it, but he says over and over, he says he can't get over the feeling everywhere he goes in this organization. He goes, "I am welcomed, and I am welcomed with open arms." And to see him respond to that, to see how good that makes him feel with 30 plus years, to possibly seeing other organizations understand the importance of that type of recognition, not because coaches want it, but that has just been, amazing to see him respond to that. He's absolutely loving it and kind of figuring out this whole.
It was cool to see him on the bases this weekend. Sean and I
He keeps asking, and I'm like, Doug, you can do anything you want.
So we're talking to two college coaches. We're sitting there. We're not really paying attention to the game so much as we are just chatting with these two coaches. And then you hear, you go. Now you come off. Now you go. Stop. You back. And Sean's like, Doug's coaching the bases. And sure enough, his running game was ridiculous. Yes. I mean, I was like, wanted to stop with the colleges and start taking notes because he was controlling it.
So let's take that there. What's the best piece of advice that you've
seen
or got?
I didn't get to say my thing. And isn't this how this game works? Like you go, like I get to feel.
Sean's butthurt. He's out.
I feel excluded.
You're right.
Like
we're okay.
So, all right.
So what was your?
Wait.
No, my grandfather is probably the most impactful person. My mom's, we called him Bobo. In my young life, and it would be live life with a sense of humor, and he is the funniest human being that I've ever known in my entire life. And, I could just remember spending weekends with him, watching sporting events because he lived and died with every Dodger game, and Vince Scully, listened to it on the radio. But it was always that. And kind of when I spoke about not taking this myself too serious is like, I'm definitely committed and serious to what I do, but I always, have a sense of humor as to and not taking it too serious. Like we're all just lucky, right? I'm out here coaching softball,
right.
And this is healthy but he was that's why I wanted to make sure to say it was just because he is, as he's the most impactful person of my life.
Right.
Him and my father and my mother, of course. But I mean, I spent a lot of time with him.
I think you got a little bit of his sense of humor there. So which is why I put this interesting mix of people in here today. And guys, this has been awesome. It's like I say, it's a good thing to talk about, but the most enjoyable part of our conversations is when you guys do your thing, and he just cracked me up. So really appreciate you coming in today. I know we all have things that we're doing, and you guys are busy. Really appreciate all your blood and sweat equity that you put into the organization, and seeing it pay off now, and seeing things start to really kind of take a hold of and pick up speeds. Just been awesome. Can't thank you enough for this. We've got so much more great work to do ahead of us. So just enjoying it, and good luck this weekend. Knock it out with all your teams and figure out how to get yourself qualified for the big tourney at the end of the summer, and then boom, and then next thing you know, we'll probably get back here towards the end of the summer after our business trip. Maybe talk about that a little bit and some of the exciting things that we talk about and kind of creating for the future. So
sounds good.
That's it for today. Thanks, guys. We'll see everybody next time.
Thanks.